joined now by Congressman Jim Jordan, state of Ohio. So many different things going on right now on Capitol Hill. Let's start here. Big, beautiful bill gets passed. Was it more dramatic than you expected? Was it about what you expected? What happens now?
No, it was about what I expect. I think the economy takes off. I mean, I probably I don't know how many interviews I've done on this issue, but it's like I say all the time. You know, it was a good bill, Clay, because the left hated it, and the left hated it because it actually empowered people, empowered families, tax cuts for families, school choice for families, most resources devoted to border security in the history of our country to make sure our border stays secure, and then the work requirements for able-bodied adults who currently get your tax money. In the future, they're going to have to work, which is a good thing for the economy. It's a good thing for taxpayers, but most importantly, I think it's a good thing for those individuals.
What are the most important things that you think we're going to see now changing in the economy, Congressman, since the bill has been passed? I mean, we talk about tax cuts. That's great. More money in people's pockets, more money
Yep.
for the private sector to let the business of the American people be business. But where do you think we're going to see some of this in a real life, day-to-day way take root and be really helpful to
Well,
the bottom line of the American people?
yeah, I think it's just that fundamental point. When you let families, when you let moms and dads keep more of their money to spend on their goals and their dreams, good things happen. That's good for that family. It's good for their community. It's good for their local school, their local business. It's just good for our economy. This was the largest tax cut in history, coupled with the largest investment in border security. Those were key items in last fall's campaign, and why the American people, I think, elected President Trump. So I think it's that basic. Now, we need the growth, because we got a huge deficit we're running every single year, piling up this big debt. We got to begin to deal with that. But step one to deal with all that is to get your economy growing at a faster clip than, of course, it was under the Biden administration.
All right, you and I are diehard sports fans. Buck is, I would say, kind of coming along a little
You're
bit. He's
bringing him
starting to
along,
pepper a lot of
yeah.
Wait,
sports
wait, wait.
analogies.
Before you ask your real question, Congressman, Clay wasn't sure that I was going to know how many points you get for a safety in football. Can you believe the disrespect that sometimes I have to brook on this show?
We
No,
played a Jeopardy question
yeah,
for him where the two of the Jeopardy contestants got it wrong, and Buck got it
yeah,
right to his
yeah,
credit,
good.
but
Yeah,
I'll
good
allow you to
job.
weigh in.
Yeah, well, no, I figured he would get it right. Everyone knows that's 2 points, but except I guess a few people on Jeopardy. But yeah, we love sports. I mean, now I got to tell you, Clay, for me, I'm not the greatest golfer, but I shot an 81 yesterday, so that's a good score for me.
That's
And I was
really
like,
good.
and it's even better when you beat your brother and your two buddies, which we got a chance to sneak out and play a little bit yesterday because this week we weren't back in D.C. So I'll take that score because I don't normally shoot quite that low, but I'll take that any day.
All right, so let's dive into this mess, because if you are a sports fan right now, the whole name, image, and likeness universe has been
Yeah.
crazy. And for people out there who don't know, just a few years ago, you went from, hey, you get a scholarship to go to college. That's your full compensation. Now you can get basically paid to play. You can also get name, image, and likeness.
Yep.
You guys are working on a bill to try to standardize laws and make these rules consistent. Tell me what you're working on and where you are.
Yeah, we've got legislation. It's actually bipartisan support. The key sponsors are Gus Bilirakis from Florida and Scott Fitzgerald, who's on our committee from the great state of Wisconsin. And we try to outline some basic things. We want to make sure we spell out for athletes. You have a right to get NIL money. You have a right to work with agents. You have a right to keep that information private. We make sure in this bill that the agents have to disclose. Right now, nobody knows who some of these agents are. These kids transferring every year. So agent disclosure. We put in some guaranteed rights for the student athletes. Now, most of these student athletes already have this, but we want to make sure it's in there. And then probably the key part is we allow the entity that governs college sports, and we don't say what it is, but in essence, it's the NCAA, to set some rules and basically say, okay, we're going to give you liability protection. This is the antitrust issue. We're going to give you liability protection so that you can say, here's what it takes to be eligible. You got to maintain a certain GPA. Here's how many years of eligibility. We got kids, student athletes today who are competing like 6 years. The COVID and everything else, and the red shirt years and everything else they're doing, like 6-7 years of competition. So we let the NCAA set eligibility. We let them set the number of times you can transfer. Right now, some of these athletes are transferring, 4, 5, 6 times. And what we're saying is you're going to get one transfer under this. We'll allow them to get one transfer. And then we also put in there this sort of salary cap concept, which every sports organization has. And I want to thank you, Clay. I know you've been working on this issue a ton with college, with conference commissioners, with athletic directors and coaches. We're trying not to get too prescriptive, but we think this is the kind of bill that makes sense, particularly after the big decision, the House decision. And then finally, there's a few more things where we talk about preempting states. You can't have each state setting up a standard and trying to outdo the other. So that's part of the legislation as well.
I've been working on this, because I just think it's important to have a standard set of rules that everybody. I love college athletics.
Yep.
People out there understand this. What is the likelihood? Because some people are going to say, well, Congress, it's hard to get anything passed. You mentioned that there's bipartisan recognition that this is a mess. And I think anyone who is a college sports fan is nodding along. It is a mess right now. It's a broken, sort of haphazard system in place. Coaches, players, parents, certainly administrators, everybody. What do you think the chances are that this passes? I know, and I'll let you kind of dive in, that President Trump has been supportive of trying to get this fixed as well because he's a big college sports fan. What's the time frame? What does that look like as you assess?
Well, I think there's a good chance that we can get it passed. We got Shamari Figures, a new member from the great state of Alabama, a Democrat. We got Janelle Bynum from Washington. So we got already some Democrats signing on. We think more will do it. And I think it's just a recognition that I use the example. I think the top college wrestling recruit this year is a young man out of the Pittsburgh area. And I think the rumors are he's getting like $500,000. So if the top wrestler is getting that, imagine what the quarterbacks are getting paid to go to these top-notch Big Ten, SEC universities. It's a ton of money. There needs to be something done, and everyone understands that. And so I think when you have coaches and college presidents and athletic directors and conference commissioners begin to talk to members of Congress and say, we need something that gives some framework to this to college sports, something we all love. I think there's a good chance we get the kind of bipartisan support that you don't see a whole lot of these days in Congress. But when it comes to college sports, I think you can get it, and we'll get something done that I think will be helpful to student athletes and helpful to college sports in general.
You've been one of the biggest and foremost defenders of Trump for 10 years. I mentioned that President Trump obviously is a huge sports fan. He's talking about having a UFC fight on the White House lawn, which would be amazing. I bet you'll be there. I'd like to be there. You and I were together at the NCAA Wrestling Championships in Philadelphia. You just referenced that. When you look at Trump 2.0 and the first 6 months of Trump 2.0 and you compare it to Trump 1.0, how much difference is there? And are you blown away, like both Buck and myself are, at the president's energy and just the efficiency with which they have attacked this new term?
Yeah, and it's he's got his team in place around him and these key, agencies, cabinet secretaries, and they're just amazing. And you just look at the attack on Iran was and taking out their nuclear capabilities was so successful. He goes to NATO, gets them to ante up more money, so successful. Gets the big beautiful bill passed, so successful. Best border security we've had in who knows our lifetime probably. And you can just keep going. All the things he's got done. It's truly amazing. And his energy, I called him last night, and then I actually went to bed, and I woke up this morning, and so where I had a missed call, he called me after 11 last night. He was up early this morning working the phones. That's just the kind of energy he has. He loves the country. And one of the things I always say about him is, speaking of sports, he totally thinks like an athlete. He hates to lose. He despises losing, which is a great quality. I tell people it's an American quality, and it's certainly a character trait that you want in your commander-in-chief, in your president, and President Trump just has it. He's off to an amazing start, and I think it's just going to continue to be good things that'll happen for the country.
Yesterday, we mentioned the idea of primetime hearings surrounding the Joe Biden cover-up. I know you paid attention. The doctor took the Fifth Amendment yesterday. We led the show talking about that. Is there any momentum to really kind of put people under the spotlight of a major national hearing, much like occurred with the Jan 6 primetime hearings that Democrats did in, if I remember correctly, the summer of 22 or thereabouts? What kind of momentum, if any, might there be for something such as that?
Yeah, I think that option is certainly on the table with Chairman Comer. There's some things we're looking at in slightly different areas on the Judiciary Committee, specifically with the sort of the auto pen doctor, all that stuff with Joe Biden. I really think that it would be maybe the best thing is if you had a whistleblower come forward. I don't know if we're ever going to get that, but that to me seems what we need to really say yes. There wasn't really Joe Biden giving the okay on this. This is other people, but that'll take a whistleblower coming forward to talk about that. Short of that, I think it's tough to ever prove it, but that doesn't mean you don't have hearings to just highlight how we now, we all saw it at the time, but how we know how just how bad it was when President Biden was in there and his inability, I think, to truly handle the task at hand.
We're talking to Congressman Jim Jordan. Last question for you, Congressman. Appreciate all the time. I think, decently Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. I know there's a huge flare-up. Buck and I have been talking about this all week as to what might or might not be in the Epstein files, all those things. And you're not involved in the Department of Justice investigation, so I'm not asking you about that, but what confidence do you have, based on your knowledge of the team, in Kash Patel and Dan Bongino running the FBI?
Oh, I got complete confidence in them and Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche over at the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General. They're just night and day compared to what we had with Garland and Ray and that crowd. So no, complete confidence. And the latest investigation they've announced into Comey and Brennan that has been reported. I mean, I think this is critically important because never forget what happened with Comey and Brennan and Clapper and these guys. In 2016, President Trump wins, and after Election Day, but before Inauguration Day, they all go up to Trump Tower in New York, and they brief him on the dossier, knowing at the time the dossier was BS. They brief him on it so they can leak it to the press and give it, and therefore give it some kind of credibility. That's how low they went to go after President Trump. And now Director Ratcliffe has people who are saying, "Oh no, this dossier." Guys are saying what Brennan said in testimony to Congress was contradicted by what they did. So I do think that investigation is critically important.
Awesome. Appreciate the time, Congressman. Have a good weekend. I know we're not quite there, and keep us updated. Come back on whenever you want.
We will. Take care, Clay. Thanks, guys.